Hello, it's Stuart from Infinite Fire Music, and this is the second of my video blogs into emotional music and exploring maybe some of the ideas of why and how certain types of music and certain passages of music or chord progressions elicit some kind of emotional response from the listener. This one is called Analog versus Digital, not the same old story. And basically, playing guitar today, I was struck by one of the obvious differences between digital and analog. I was playing with the volume knob on my guitar, creating volume swells as part of what was, I hope, a soulful solo. The beauty of an analog control like that is that the transition between values is smooth and seamless. The volume swells and diminishes smoothly and beautifully, and for me that smoothness is part of what makes that particular passage of music so soulful or poignant. So here's a quick example of what I'm talking about. That will be a little bit of a guitar interlude in the build of a cool trance track I'm making. And we've all sat there, our door open on our screen, and struggled to get the fader or the pan mob to move smoothly or accurately to the value you want using the mouse. That's why so many of us buy controller devices to regain smooth analog control over digital faders. I find it quite ironic, particularly when using something like Propellerhead's Reason or Record, which makes the rack device look like an analog equivalent. But it still requires that I hold down Control or Alt to achieve anything like the precision of an analog knob. The point, of course, is that digital is about numbers, it's about maths, whereas music is an altogether more pure form of language than words or numbers. Digital music is code. It's a set of complex binaries that are decoded to produce a synthesized and synthetic sound. It's about numbers, and numbers are an imperfect or incomplete language because they move in notches. 1, 2, 3, or 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Even if you go down to 1.00001, 1.00002, it doesn't matter how microscopic you make the numbers, they still bump along one tiny notch at a time. Just like the annoying pan knob on Pro Tools. Not like the nice analog volume knob on my Ibanez, because music does not move in notches. Yeah, sure, our Western scales have 12 official steps called semitones, or notches to them, but between A and B there are an infinite number of tones, and bending my guitar string from one to the other will smoothly and analogically take me on a journey through every single countless and impossibly many of them. I can't describe them, the words and letters don't exist, but my ear can hear them. Even if it can't pick out all the notes, it can experience the sound of them and translate that into some kind of emotional response. What does this mean for the practicing musician? Well, it's a reminder of two things. One, that however wonderful and cheap and quick today's digital music making world is, you can or should never completely replace real analog instruments. Not for the cliched and largely untrue reason that digital doesn't sound as good, but for the reason that real physical instruments use the laws of physics rather than mathematics, which allow them to do different things. And two, that when it comes to attempting to create soulful sounds or elicit an emotional response from the listener, we shouldn't be constrained by the perfect world of digital electronic music. Just as people can overuse quantizing and end up with a beat that, for all of its perfect timing, has lost its sense of human authenticity, so digital music, with its default limitation of 12 perfect official semitones, can lead us to miss out on so much more. Now, I'm not suggesting we should be tweaking our advanced settings to allow out-of-tune notes, or writing to Steinberg and demanding that they bring out a version of Cubase that has quarter note intervals like the Arabic music Makamat scales. But we can acknowledge some of the creative ways around this limitation and explore them and the effects they create. The first is, of course, detuning your humble oscillators. Add some non-perfect chaos to your synth. You'd be amazed how many people stack up the oscillators, choose different waveforms for variation, but don't add any or enough detuning. The result is a sound that is nowhere near as big as it could or should be. Let's have a listen to the difference that it can make. I'm just going to take this synth that I've produced here. Now let's take all of his oscillators down and here, see how that sounds. Pretty thin. Let's put those oscillators, detune amounts here, back up where I had them. You hear the difference there. The second way of being creative with in-between notes is to make a lot more use of the portamento control. Try varying your next filter sweep by twinning it with an automated decrease or increase in portamento value. Listen to this section of my Infinite Fire track, My Heart Will Soar, for an example. Here I've got, in this intro build, this synth coming in, and you can see I have two automation lanes here, and the first, the mod wheel, we can see down here, is affecting a filter 3 frequency, as you might expect a mod wheel, performance wheel to normally do, but I've also got it sending to a considerable amount of the portamento control here, so it's taking portamento from 0 to 64 as the mod wheel moves. And my rotary build here has been programmed through to the main filter frequency of filter 1. So I've got two filters going on, but also this portamento. So let's take a listen to that. As that wheel comes down here, see the wheel is moving down. It's reducing the amount of portamento. For me, that creates a dreamy sense of something not only building but coalescing somehow, becoming more concrete. Most builds and sweeps work in 2 dimensions. They take us up or down. I wanted to add a 3rd dimension, something that isn't going just up or down, it's coming closer. The idea behind that intro was to create the effect not of the music just building up, but of approaching at the same time. The third idea is paradoxically the most radical and yet old-fashioned. Record some real instruments over your electronica. This is what my side project Afterburner calls Gatrans. So check out the track Orca Dreams on the website and watch the video of how the bittersweet sounding, or at least that's the emotion it produces in me, chord progression works. The chord sequence for Orca Dreams is B minor, one of my favourite starting points for a progression, D, A, E. There's only one minor chord in there, and then a major. Maybe the reason it sounds to me like something moving from sad to happy, hence my bittersweet reaction. All I know is sticking some guitar over the big build at the end of that track sounded pretty cool, and I used lots of bent notes to get all those in-between notes in there. So just have a listen to that. So I hope that's given you some food for thought. Don't be restricted to the 12 notes of the scale. Use bent notes, detuned oscillators, portamento, you name it. I'm sure you can come up with other things too. But do have a listen to my tracks on myspace.com/thisisinfinitefire, or go to my website www.infinitefiremusic.com to comment on this blog and get in touch. Thanks.